In this video, we're going to be planting those potatoes in that soil in these containers, rejecting those containers. Join along as we talk about everything I think I know about growing potatoes in containers, plus a little bit of experiment because we're going to be working on both grow bags and solid containers this year, trying to figure out which is going to work better for me. Hi, I'm Bowtie Dave. Well, hello and welcome to Bowtie Life. This has been such a wonderful time of year because we're getting stuff in the garden. In fact, I've got a lot of hot peppers in the ground the other day. What was that, 4 days ago that these hot peppers went into the ground, and these were 19 of the 23 overwintered hot peppers that I had indoors in the Florida room all winter in little tiny pots. And I'm so excited to have them in the raised garden bed again and starting to grow in this new space. Welcome back to the Bowtie living room. Of course, we are in a bit of a construction zone. Paint samples up here. I still have the plants up here getting ready to go outside. They're still growing strong. The fan is up here. It is not going there. It's a beautiful, beautiful overcast day out there today. Now we're going to be using two different types of potatoes, but I wanted to show you something. I was up here taking down the shelves. You know, there's some shelves that's normally here on my right side for these videos, but they're mostly gone. And while I was doing that, I found these old potatoes, not from June of 2024. These are from 2023. And they look kind of like, I don't know, dead tarantulas, maybe live tarantulas. One of these actually fell off the shelf a few weeks ago and was on the floor, and I thought it actually was a tarantula of some kind. But yes, these sat up there, and they actually looked amazingly good for completely dead potatoes that have been sitting up there for a year and a half. We are not going to be using these, of course. However, this year is the second time I've done the same thing, and I have come up with these. Now, this is from June of last year, and they have nice, sturdy looking chits on them. Chits, C-H-I-T-S. Sturdy looking chits on them that are green. They're not long and stringy and white like you normally see if you store these in a dark area. And I did this year before last in the hopes of doing what we're doing today, and that is to be able to plant them out into containers and see how they grow. Now, they are a little soft, but you know what? That's what they're supposed to do. We're going to get these in the soil and get them planted and hopefully see these things start shooting up leaves as soon as they start getting into the nutrient-rich soil. And so these are actually going to be some from last year. I actually put them on the shelf right here in the living room. They sat there from June of last year to now it's March. So it sat there for 9 months. In just regular light, not direct sunlight. It's the light that you see right now, and it's a pretty good light right here, but just regular light, and I'm really impressed with how good they look. Here's a little bit closer look up at the whole tray. Whoops. The whole tray. These things are not brittle. They're on there. They're sturdy. I'm very encouraged at how good they look. So I'm looking forward to see how they do. Now, also, I'm going to be comparing them, and we talked about how we're going to be using two types of potatoes. I'm going to be comparing them. Now, I went down to our local Lowe's. I have no sponsorship in this video. It's just where I like to go, and I happened to notice that they had these seed potatoes in the shelf, and I thought, I'm going to go do that. Now, when I picked them up, they did have just a few little tiny chits on them. They are doing a little better. Interestingly enough, sitting out here on the table, they're getting stronger. They're nice deep purple color with little green tips. And so they're really quite similar, but these are fresh this year. And I wanted to get a combination. We've got 9 of these older potatoes over here from the previous year. And I think we have 8 this year potatoes, and I'm not very impressed with some of these seeds. So it's a little bit small, but we're going to do it anyway and see what we can get out of them. Some of these actually look fantastic. Has a little bit of damage on it, but that's not a bad thing. but these will be sitting in the soil just like that. So that is the newer potatoes that we're going to do. I am curious how different these will grow from those. Now, some of these are bigger than those. They are pretty well on the same scale and size. These are just newer. So once these get into the nutrient-rich soil, they're going to do better. Now, in the past, I've done this and I've put nutrients in the soil, and we're going to get out here and start mixing the soil and getting some good stuff in here. I'm not sure I put in enough nutrients in there. Now, I do like this. It's the Dr. Earth's tomato, vegetable, and herb fertilizer. Now, this is a 4-6-3. It has, the 6 is the phosphorus, the 4 is the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and these numbers are very important. It kind of gives you an idea of what kind of growth you're going to be looking for out of this particular bag. The 3 numbers, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, think of them as shoots, roots, and fruits. Really, the last 2 numbers kind of combined are the fruits. Potatoes, yeah, they're fruits, but they're also part of the roots. So you'll notice the middle number, the roots part, shoots, roots, and fruits. The roots part is a bigger number. And the nitrogen in the front part has a little bit more nitrogen for, especially in the beginning, when we're starting to get that leaf growth and trying to get enough leaves out to where it can start pushing that energy down into the roots and growing those potatoes. And I'm very excited about seeing how this whole bag in all these potatoes will do compared to what we've done in the past. Let's talk about these containers. And I'm going to do some just B-roll here and show you the 2 types of containers that we're going to use. I found these 2 big solid containers on the side of the road, and I'm a little excited about it because I drove past them and I literally slammed on my brakes in the middle of the road. There was no traffic. Slammed on the brakes in the middle of the road, jumped out and threw these into the back. I was pulling the trailer at the time. Threw these into the trailer and came on home. It was just a few blocks away. And the whole idea of this video was born. I knew I had these potatoes sitting there here on the table. I knew I had these potatoes sitting here on the table. I was like, okay, we needed to compare grow bags to these containers. Now, I have been watching Tony O'Neill and his potato growing videos for years and just absolutely drooling over his results, and I'm still trying to perfect my results to be at least half of his results. That would be a dream, but his results are just mind-blowing. Of course, like the little symbol here says, there's a link in the description down below. There's a section where we have the index for this video, and in this timestamp area, you'll see a link to his channel and to one of those videos that are so impressive. But one of the biggest things that he does is he grows in solid containers. Now, where he's at, he needs the solid containers because his environment is a lot different than mine, for instance. In fact, he and I talked about it one day, and he said, you really should do solid containers. And I told him, I said, we are so humid, grow bags don't dry out for me. They just don't. I can water them once a week and they still stay moist because our environment is so humid almost year-round. In the middle of the summer, we're talking 90% humidity always, and it is a lot of water in the air. Not only is it humid, we're completely surrounded by water. So when the wind comes from the south, when the wind comes from the north, it's picking up even more water from the big bodies of water. We have the Gulf of Mexico and the Choctawhatchee Bay. The wind will pick up extra water and just make us even more humid. These grow bags, yeah, they're great for aeration. They don't go dry for us. That is very different than most places in the country, and I completely understand that that may not work for you. And so you really have to experiment a little. Be willing to try different things. I'm going to try these 2 big containers, and we're going to give them a chance. They have decent drainage holes. I might need to put a couple more drainage holes in the bottom just to be sure that the drainage is good enough. We got our nutrients, we have our containers, these big solid containers, and we have the grow bags we're going to use. Now, if you watched many of my videos, you know exactly what grow bags I'm going to be using, and that is these 10-gallon grow bags that I get on Amazon. They are the Garden brand. In fact, there will be a link to this on Amazon, and I would like to ask, please use the link to Amazon in my description. I'm trying to get qualified as an Amazon associate, and I need some references. So use that link on Amazon to go take a look at it. And what will happen is anything that you buy in the next 24 hours, we will get a small credit for it. It's not going to change your price at all, but I would appreciate the help because we're trying to grow and develop and become a little bit more than what we already are. So yeah, these Guards In bags, I have used them for years. They have been fantastic. They last a long time. They're obviously UV resistant because these bags have been sitting out in the Florida sun literally for years. I haven't bought new bags since we got to this house 3.5 years ago. And when we moved here, they were already 2 years old. So yeah, they do a good job for me and they're cheap. I don't want to discount the Smart Pots and the other products out there. I just know this is what I've been using and I've been having a lot of success. I want to see if I can find the picture from a few years ago where I compared a tomato growing in a 5-gallon bucket and a tomato growing in one of these grow bags. The root system on the grow bag tomato looks more like a chia pet, and the root system on the 5-gallon bucket tomato, because they were trying to literally climb out the bottom, they look more like stringy long things. And I like the chia pet looking roots better because they will be fully exhausting and using every cubic millimeter of the soil to get nutrients, to get water. And I just seem to think that they would be stronger. They did produce a little bit better when it came time to harvest. So tell me, are you excited to see how this turns out? we will be continuing to cover these in our garden tours. Now these will be sitting out in the side garden for a while, and then I will be moving them over to the raised garden bed area after the sun starts getting a little bit higher. But keep an eye on the garden tour, so be sure to subscribe and like. Let me know in the comments below if you're growing potatoes and how they are doing and what methods you're using, and are you seeing green leaves yet? I'm very curious to find out, especially be sure to include what part of the country you're in, because I know it varies tremendously. As far as varying, I'm 2 weeks earlier than last year. In full disclosure, I would like to have these things in soil in the end of February and then let them leaf out here in the Florida room until the weather gets nice enough that I can put them outside. It hadn't happened yet. ADD, folks. Squirrels, rabbits, they all cause problems for me. Not because there's fuzzy things in the yard, but because my brain chases every little thing out there. And we have had so many little things to chase out there. It is not funny. So now, folks, let's talk about this soil right here. If you see our front and side garden tour, you see this right at the end, just before the blueberries on every single month. And this is the same pile I've been cultivating since last year when we did the exact same thing for the potatoes. Okay. So if I uncover this, you can see it has a lot of stuff in it. It even has a few weeds in it that I'm not going to worry about, but you'll notice it has a lot of organic material. And Des, as you're reworking your beds, you really need to get that organic material working in there. I know you know that, and I'll be excited to see that problem you're having with those roly-polies solved by some good organic material. I've been getting that compost from the Equestrian Center for years, and so all of my soil has nothing but mass amounts of organic material. I have never seen anything like that, Des. That is just mind-blowing. Anyway, so yes, we're going to be using this soil. I got a little bit more over here that I'm going to do. Speaking of the garden party, Phil was showing how he used a tarp, and yes, there is a tarp under here that he uses to mix his nutrients in. Unfortunately, my pile's getting a little big and I'm not going to be able to pull it very easily, but we'll try it. I have a feeling I'm going to end up just mixing in the nutrients right in the container that I'm putting the potatoes in. So in that little bit, I saw worms, I saw bugs, I saw all kinds of good signs of nutrients and life in this soil. I'm very excited about that. These worms are canoodling like crazy. Amazing. So the next time you see this pile in the front and side garden tour, be sure and put in the comments below that you knew where that was moved at, that it was moved during the potato planting. And I think we have enough to plant potatoes in. Put it in the comments and help remind me that you are here. I see all your faces out there. So in the interest of keeping this experiment somewhat uniform, and believe me, my obsessive compulsive behaviors have a tendency to make me want to do everything exactly right, which is fighting against my ADHD that says, just get it done. It is what it is, folks. Right now is a really good time to talk about the potatoes that I'm planting. And there's an important distinction in potatoes that we in America don't really pay attention to. And that is early potatoes and late potatoes. Early fruiting potatoes and late fruiting potatoes. There is a huge, huge difference, folks, and they are treated extremely differently. So when we're talking about early fruiting potatoes, earlies, in Europe they'll say first earlies and second earlies, these are what's called determinate potatoes, folks. A determinate potato will grow like a determinate tomato. It will grow for a limited amount of time. It'll produce a limited amount of potatoes, but it typically does it faster than the late potatoes. Now the late potatoes will start putting out potatoes later and will continue to put out those potatoes over a longer period of time, which means they will live longer. Why is this important, folks? And here's the big deal. This is so very important to keep in mind because an early potato, you do not hill up. It does it no good. It does it no advantage. A late potato, an indeterminate potato, you let it grow and then you put more soil on it. Then you let it grow some more and put more soil on it. And it will continue to put more potatoes on various strata of the root system. So if you can get a 3-foot tall root system in there, you can have tubers throughout that whole root system. If you hill up a early potato, folks, you're not doing it any good. In fact, you're slowing it down. It's having a harder and harder time getting energy to the few potatoes that it's giving. And that's a problem. And that's something that we need to be aware of and understand whether our potatoes are early or late. Now, you can take your potatoes and you can go ask Google, hey Google, is such and such a potato an early potato or a late potato? And it will tell you. You can also ask, is it a determinate or an indeterminate? And it will tell you. And so these Yukon Gold that I'm planting are determinate or early. They are a second early, which means they take a little bit longer than the first earlies. First earlies might come up in, 40 to 60 days. These will typically take 50 to 90 days, 50 to 80 days. And so it's just slightly different the way you treat two different kinds of potatoes. It's kind of like when you're growing tomatoes. If you take a determinate tomato plant and trim off all the branches and try to 1-liter it, you're going to find out real quick it's not going to grow that tall. And you don't have to put it up a vine or a string or a trellis or anything like that. If you try to treat a indeterminate tomato the way you're supposed to be treating a determinate tomato, by topping it off and trying to get it to bush out, it will sort of do it, but you're going to be hurting its production. You really have to understand the very simple concepts of the fact that there are different types of tomatoes, different types of potatoes, and that is just so important. So we have here about 5 or 6 inches in the bottom of each one of these pots. It might be a little bit much, but it's actually going to be plenty for my purposes. I do want to use this Dr. Earth's fertilizer, and I want to put about the same amount in each pot and grow bag. And so I'm putting, a pretty good size amount, and we're going to spread this around in the bottom of each of these grow bags and pots. Right. Yes, I know what we're doing. Now you can see that irrigation head just to the left over there. There's actually 4 irrigation heads that cover this spot in one way or another. There's another one just right off screen to the right, and there's 2 behind the camera that you cannot see that do get this area a little bit. And so these are going to get a good amount of watering here, especially in the beginning till the green parts start
coming out. After I've worked those first 3 shovelfuls of amendment into the soil very good, I'm going to be adding another 3 shovels on each one and working in another scoop just by hand, not by upsetting the whole container. This will ensure that the bottom part where the tubers will be growing has plenty, and more of the roots for that matter, has plenty of nutrients to feed on while it's growing. I've been guilty in the past, I believe, of not putting enough nutrients in, and I don't want to do that again this year. So I'm putting a lot more nutrients in than I ever have before.
And now we get down to the point where I'm most excited about getting the potatoes in the soil. All this soil is ready. It's got nutrients in it. Everything is mixed in. And then I'm thinking, these potatoes need to be planted down in the bottom of these containers. In fact, if I look at this container, those potatoes need to be planted way down, maybe that far from the bottom. That will put a nice wide range for it, a nice strata, let's say, for it to grow its potatoes in the bottom. Now these things should be 60 to 80 days, I can't remember, something like that. And we should be harvesting this sometime in the end of June. I'm hoping that we can get them to survive that long because they'll grow big enough. But I need to get these down at the bottom. Now the problem is some of these have big old growths on them and I don't want to break those growths off. So what I have in my ingenious brain come up with is I'm going to go through, I'm going to dump the soil into this nice big pot right here, except for the bottom so much, put the 2 potatoes in, each one, and then I will slowly cover them over with the rest of the soil that goes in that particular pot or container or grow bag or whatever we're doing. I'm so confused now. Anyway, so that's going to be my plan. There are handles on every one of these. Oh, there's 4 handles on these. Doggone it. I thought there was 2 handles. Well, I'm going to put the potatoes facing the handles. One of the handles, it's going to be a little confusing on the pots. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll put them on 2 handles and I'll put the tag in one of the other handles so I'll know it's the adjacent handles. There we go. I'm a genius. Trust me, I know. Anyway, we're going to go through all of these potatoes. Now, I do have these separated out by weight. And I have the weights written down in here, like these 2 together make 192 grams. These 2 together are 190. These 2 are 210. And I've actually got my Sharpie right here. I'm going to write on here the weight of the seed potatoes that's going in that particular bag. So, or container or pot. So that we can maybe have an idea if things go differently. So we already have our tags. Everything says Yukon Gold, today's date, March 29th, and whether it is from, okay, I've already messed them up. That's Irish Eyes. Where's the other Lowe's? I bought a bag of these from, oh, there's the other Lowe's. See, I messed it up already. I'm glad I looked at that. Lowe's. Over here. Oh, I would have been so pointless, wouldn't it? And Irish Eyes over here. I ordered these potatoes from well, not these. I ordered the parents of these potatoes from Irish Eyes back in the beginning of last year. That's where this crop came from those particular seed potatoes. And these, like I said, came from Lowe's. So, that being said, let's get on with the end of this task. I do want to leave these pots right here in this location until we get ready to move them to another location later on in their life.
Young folks, don't get old.
Now I think I have enough amendments on here for the growth of these for a while, and so I will be planning on feeding them again in about a month, about halfway through their life. If I think about it, I might try to do it a little bit earlier with something, and I'm not sure with what yet, but keep an eye out for, right now, the front and side garden tour. It'll be near the end if I do it, or there might be a special video for that. It feels good to have the potatoes in the ground, in the soil, and not in the ground, they're in pots and grow bags, to see how they grow. And I hope that you might have learned something from this. I do feel good about all the shoveling and stirring and tumbling and pouring and dumping of the soil, that those nutrients are very well worked into every single pot now. So the using of this big pot to dump most of it out, then plant them and then put it back in, I like that idea. Maybe I'll do that again when I go back and look at this video next year and see what I did. Now, there are a few things about the differences between grow bags and pots. Number one, grow bags, first off, they allow better drainage, so the water drains out a lot better. Pots have a tendency to hold the water. Well, that comes to the other side. Better drainage may make things too dry if you live in a dry climate. We do not, like I said in the beginning, so these should stay nice and moist the whole time. We'll see if these things stay too moist. And that's really going to be the biggest part of this experiment, to figure out which does best for me. I have a feeling that in a different location, those results might be different for pots versus grow bags. It'll be interesting, we'll see. And then of course we have the year-old potatoes, which this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to be able to have enough potatoes that I can save a few to go in next year. You know, maybe 8 to go in for next year, maybe 16 if I have enough. That would be a dream. We'll see which one of these does better, and we're still working on potato storage. Our last potato storage fiasco included an infestation of our home with pantry moths that was very unpleasant, and we're still fighting it, though I think we're finally getting down to the end of it. Let me know in the comments what you think will happen with these different growing methods, and if you think we'll have any success. And definitely subscribe, because you don't want to miss June. Somewhere around June is where we will be harvesting these potatoes and seeing what kind of results we're going to get out of everything, weighing the potatoes that we get out of each pot, and find out what's what. We are going to be waiting until these grow up and the tops begin to die off, actually mostly die off, before we start harvesting these. If you found this at all informational, educational, inspirational, or maybe you just got a laugh out of watching me trying to get up from the bench earlier, then please click the thumbs up on this video and share it with a friend. Please feel free to comment anytime if you have questions. Ask your questions in the comments, or share your experiences, things that you might have learned in the comments as well. That not only helps me, it helps others that watch these videos as well. So appreciate you all participating. I appreciate you taking the time. And remember, be sure to click one of those Amazon links in the description below to help support our channel and get us qualified for our Amazon Associate account. Y'all have a blessed day.